Hi, VencoreWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Thursday, January 21st. A major winter storm is headed to the I-95 corridor. It continues to look like it'll dump a significant snow accumulation from D.C. to New York City, most likely in the 1 to 2 foot range, 2 feet more than likely around the D.C. metro region, 1 foot more than likely around Central Park in New York City and the Philly metro region, somewhere in the middle. That certainly could change. Certainly could be a 2 foot type storm all the way up the I-95 corridor from D.C. to New York City. This storm will include some serious blowing and drifting. Winds could gust up to 70 miles per hour at the coast later Saturday night. 50 mile per hour wind gusts possible in inland locations, even along I-95. There will be coastal flooding and beach erosion. There will be a full moon late Saturday that will not help the situation at all. Be a long period of northeast winds. That's not good news along the coast in terms of beach erosion and potential coastal flooding. Rain or sleet could certainly mix in southern New Jersey, Delmarva Peninsula, perhaps even a changeover at times to rain and or sleet in those areas, perhaps even a mixing with or changeover all the way up to the I-95 corridor. However, all locations will end up with significant snow. Colder air will collapse back towards the coast the latter part of the day on Saturday, and any rain or sleet that is falling, let's say across New Jersey, will change back to accumulating snow. Power outage certainly cannot be ruled out given the fact that there will be a long period of strong winds and the fact that it very well could be heavy wet snow that could mix with rain at times and then change back to snow. A lot of weight for the tree limbs. Blizzard watches have already been officially posted by the National Weather Service office in D.C. for the D.C. and Baltimore metro regions, shown on this map in green. New York City, overnight hours, New York City Weather Service posted blizzard watches for all 5 boroughs of New York City and Long Island. I expect the Philadelphia National Weather Service will post blizzard watches later today or certainly by tomorrow for southeastern Pennsylvania. Well, even though there's only a day or a day and a half left before this storm gets underway in parts of the Mid-Atlantic region, still some details that have to be ironed out. One of the consistent patterns, though, is the upper air pattern by all the models. It has a very deep upper level trough. This is the forecast map from last night's Zero-Z GFS model run. GFS has had a pretty good handle on this situation all along. It's kind of in the middle of some of the more extreme, more bullish on snow models like the NAM and the less extreme like the European. The GFS have been somewhere in the middle. This is the forecast map for tomorrow night, Friday night. Just a very impressive upper level low. This is at the 500 millibar level, which is in the middle part of the atmosphere. Crucial to look at the 500 millibar to see what's going to occur at the lower part of the atmosphere. Kind of a confluence pattern up here across New England. Cold air pretty much locked into place. Surface high pressure anchored in, and we'll see that in a moment on the surface forecast maps, up across the north and northwest of the Mid-Atlantic region. Well, here's the forecast map for Saturday morning. Notice just a cutoff low here in the upper part of the atmosphere. This does one main thing. It slows down the movement of the surface low. Right now, the track of the surface low pressure system looks like from right around the North Carolina Outer Banks area up the coast for a while and then eventually kind of curving like that out to sea, more towards the east than the north. Hence, the Boston area will be spared the worst of this. They certainly will not go unscathed, completely unscathed, however, probably in the 6 to 10 inch range for Boston. Again, maybe a foot in Central Park, 18 inches in Philadelphia, 24 inches in D.C. That's just the first preliminary estimate for snow totals. But again, with this kind of a storm track, Boston will be spared the worst of it. And again, we'll monitor this over the next 24 hours or so. Long Island, New York City will be buffeted by very strong winds in a setup like this, hence the blizzard watches for those areas. And before we look at the surface maps, one more upper level map. This is for Saturday evening. Not much change, and that's the problem. A very slow moving system here. It'll not only buffet the coastal regions with hours and hours of very strong winds, but it'll dump snow for hours and hours all day Saturday night. Now let me point out, there will be snow certainly at varying rates on Saturday. It looks like this will be a banding type of setup where small scale or mesoscale bands set up. So it could snow very heavy for a while, a couple inches per hour, blizzard conditions with those strong winds, and then slacken off to very little or even nothing for a while on Saturday. So expect some varying rates of intensity due to the banding that should set up with this particular system. Well, let's now look at some surface forecast maps. This is for Friday evening from last night's 0Z GFS model run. The timetable has in general slowed down as we've approached the event time. It looks like probably 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. arrival time in the DC metro region, maybe 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Philadelphia area, and then 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. As late as after midnight in the New York City metro region, late Friday night, early Saturday morning. This storm reminds me a lot of the February 1983 blizzard. That was a strong El Nino winter. It was a mild winter until February, and all of a sudden everything came together for a monster storm that turned out at the time to be the biggest storm ever for Philadelphia, up near 2 feet of snow. And in that particular storm, it seemed to take forever for the snow to advance north and east up the I-95 corridor, because very cold and very dry air was held in place here, kind of holding off on the advance to the northeast. That could happen here. It could snow well before in Philadelphia, well before it starts in D.C., and similarly in New York, it could start there considerably later than D.C. or Philadelphia. Here we have high pressure anchored in to the north, northwest, all the way down into the central plains. This is a crucial pattern here for locking in the cold air for this particular time of year. And here's the forecast map for Saturday morning. That low pressure right around the Outer Banks, perhaps the Virginia, North Carolina, eastern border region right in here. The storm is intensifying, and a long fetch here off the ocean, pumping lots of Atlantic moisture right into the I-95 corridor, certainly from D.C. to Philadelphia, and just now at this time moving into the New York City metro region. This adds a lot of moisture, which in turn turns into significant snow accumulations, and it produces very strong winds. Again, can be wind gusts not far from hurricane force along the coast later Saturday into Saturday night, perhaps even up to 50 miles per hour in inland locations. Now here's the forecast map for Saturday evening. The GFS is showing nicely wraparound snow, or what we call conveyor belt deformation zone type snowfall on the northwest side of the low. The low now at this time just off the mid-Atlantic coastline right here, and it'll be kind of a comma-shaped area to the north and west setting up, and that should be all snow with strong winds for several hours late Saturday into Saturday night. And the conveyor belt, the northwest side, that's where the cold air combines with the moisture coming in off the ocean, and that will be probably quite an amazing thing to watch late Saturday night. Certainly there is the possibility of some thunder snow and lightning with this particular system, given the strong upper level nature and all the dynamics of this storm. Finally, here's the forecast map for Sunday morning, early Sunday morning, just ending at this time in the I-95 corridor between D.C., Philadelphia, and New York City, still continuing in Boston, but because of that closed off upper level feature, it's a very slow moving storm system, and that will allow many hours of strong winds and many hours of accumulating snow. Well, let's end this morning with a look at some snowfall accumulation maps by 3 different models. It's just to give you ballpark figures. They certainly change from run to run, and they vary from model to model. This is the GFS, which again I think has a pretty good handle on things, up near 20 inches or so in and around the DC metro region, a little bit more in some areas. a foot to a foot and a half in the southeastern part of Pennsylvania, and even a little bit less in the New York City metro region. Let's shift this over a little bit so we can see 6 or 7 inches at this time. It's not over yet in the New York City metro region at this time. Now again, the GFS was on the low end compared to a couple other models. This is the NAM, North American Mesoscale model, its snowfall accumulation map. All these from last night's 0Z runs. This has some incredible totals here, more than 30 inches just to the west of the D.C. area, more than 25 inches all the way from D.C. to Philadelphia to New York City. Again, this is on the high end, but it certainly sets off some red flags when you see a map like this with widespread 2-foot snowfalls and more. Finally, here's the forecast for the snowfall accumulation from the Canadian model. Very high as well, with a couple of feet of snow in and around the D.C. metro region, and that couple foot of snowfall extends all the way up into southeastern Pennsylvania, maybe near a foot in the New York City metro region. Again, take these with a grain of salt. The general idea is 1 to 2 foot snowfall from D.C. to New York City, closer to 2 feet right now in D.C. and 1 foot in New York City, Philly somewhere in the middle. That 2-foot snow band could certainly still extend all the way from D.C. to New York City. A lot of blowing and drifting as well. A major winter storm headed our way from late Friday through Saturday and Saturday night into early Sunday morning. Stay tuned to VencoreWeather.com. I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.